You are watching
You,
Xirtus.
you know the Twilight Zone episode of this where the mannequin gets a day to be a real person, but she doesn't even know it, and that's part of it is that she has to like remember, oh yeah, I'm just a mannequin in this store. So it's kind of a reverse Pinocchio story in a way.
Dude.
But Pinocchio's huge, and Thomas, you should have an appreciation for Pinocchio with your homunculus.
I don't. I hate it.
Do you really? The story itself of
I think
Pinocchio?
you're just being catty.
I'm not talking about Disney. I'm just talking about like actually,
That's
Guillermo
a
del
Catholic
Toro's Pinocchio
catechism
was
thing.
pretty good.
That's like a Catholic catechism thing. Like if a teacher tells you, like, "Oh, you're really going to appreciate this," trying to get you into it, you're just like, "No, no, Sister Hell, no." Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that Kubrick was obsessed with Pinocchio, and Mark Leclerc told me that he was obsessed with Pinocchio, and I rolled my eyes at it a little bit. And then I came to find out in years that followed, no, Kubrick was straight up obsessed with Pinocchio. And 2001: A Space Odyssey and AI in particular, those are Pinocchio.
AI,
and then how it relates kabbalistically. And I watched a talk from a rabbi about Kubrick's fixation on Pinocchio and how it relates to Kabbalah, and it kind of blew my mind.
I mean, the fact that he was trying to make artificial intelligence was clearly about Pinocchio, right?
There's another really cool political bend to Pinocchio too, because Pinocchio was essentially like a revolutionary, like Italian, like nationalist story, because they were literally sending kids off to work and grinding them down into nothing. And that was one of the original motivations for the Pinocchio, even outside of all the weird Rosicrucian like pineal gland sort of links.
Yeah,
like
with the giant Geppetto, right?
And he was it was basically Carbonari. I think that Pinocchio, the original story, was sort of essentially an encapsulation of Mazzini's sort of philosophy. So there's some pretty deep, like secret society political messaging inside Pinocchio.
Yeah. Totally. Was it, there was the Tom Hanks Pinocchio that came out like around the Disney
the best
one.
By far.
You're joking, right?
By far the best one.
You've seen it? I can't watch
that.
Yeah,
no, it was really bad.
I actually never watched it. I mean,
I couldn't bring myself to watch
that one, and I saw the Guillermo one in the same week.
So Guillermo del Toro's one took years, and that one, the Disney one, took months.
Have you ever seen Pinocchio's Revenge? Because that one is a complete sleeper that not a lot of people have had a chance to see, and it's actually better than the Tom Hanks one.
Really? Better than the Tom Hanks one.
Pinocchio's Revenge, yeah.
I gotta see which one it is. Is that the cartoon? No, this is not. This is the action.
I want to say mid 90s.
96, very clearly in 96. Yeah. No. I've not seen this. It looks interesting.
I got confused as a kid by it because I would go to Sunday school, and not just that, but Christian school, and then they would talk about Jonah the whale, and I thought that Pinocchio was like connected to Jonah and the whale, like more directly. Like I'm talking about as a little kid, you know. I'm talking about like
it absolutely is.
It has to be deep down. The one that really gets me is Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night, which of course is the most terrifying Pinocchio movie you'll ever see. It's like basically Pinocchio's been living his life. He's been doing all right. Oh, New World Pictures, by the way. And it starts out with this dude who kidnaps Pinocchio and turns him back into a puppet. Like he loses his power. And I remember thinking like, oh no, that Helter Skelter would be like the most horrible possible thing. You've been through all of that, and then you're brought right back to where you started. This movie was freaking nuts. I don't know.
And it sort of flips the whole premise of Pinocchio upside down, because there's a Rosicrucian, maybe Freemasonic element to Pinocchio.
No, really?
Like, well, I mean, yeah, clearly, right? But if you if you take that spirit back out of Pinocchio, it completely undoes that whole premise of like having that divine spark added to you, unless this Pinocchio version is literally, you know, like some sort of satanic cult stealing his soul away until he can regain it back again.
Is the joke that like the Stromboli Theater has Doric columns? Like what am I missing here with the it's not it?
Okay. Kubrick stressed that that what he was going for with AI and HAL and all of that is not the same thing. But it corresponds. So it's an externalized version of what was being pointed to with the homunculus. So like I have this written down, direct quote from Kubrick on the original script or screenplay proposals for AI. So he talks himself like, so we haven't always record. I think it was with Patrick Speck from years ago, where we were speculating on Kubrick being hip to a Met becoming Met. So you have truth versus death in Hebrew being written on the head of the homunculus. So you know all about this, I'm sure, Thomas. But yeah, they would write a Met to bring it to life, and then we're done with it. They would change it to Met, so it'd go from truth to death, right? But so this is relatable to like what you just said about this other Pinocchio film, because that's kind of how it goes. Like it's like we kind of treat it that like, oh, now he wanted to be a real boy, now he's a real boy, you know, and they lived happily ever after. That's not the actual folklore. The folklore is that when you're done with it, when it's done its job, then you're like, okay, see ya. And you just remove that letter.
There needs to be more homunculus decodes of, say, like Small Soldiers. You ever seen Small Soldiers?
Yeah,
I feel like that one needs
yesterday.
more of a break. You saw it yesterday? What?
Yeah. Well, I love Small Soldiers. I've been thinking about it. It was just
like the monthly watching.
So like I was explaining to somebody who doesn't understand America very well, and because I'd made some joke. I was talking about going to Europe and how, you know, the Germans, like, we kind of didn't want them to take our propaganda that seriously. Like, we knew that their propaganda was a joke. Why do they take ours so seriously? We just wanted Germany to sit down, not like turn and keep marching. You know, that's kind of the vibe. And you can make a joke about like, oh my God, this is like, where's this train taking me? You know, and like, and all of a sudden a German will get upset because like they reference the train to a thing, and you could say Hail Eris, and they're gonna think you're talking about Heil this, and like it's crazy how Germans are so preoccupied with the propaganda that we made, and trying to explain to them like, look, it's different for you. Like, what's illegal to you is the Hogan's Heroes sitcom to me, right?
I mean, but
like,
this
accent
sense,
is making me laugh right now. It is a funny accent because we beat you. You know, it's like we own you. It's just, and you don't have to take it so seriously. I forget why this mattered. Oh, because Small Soldiers. Because Small Soldiers is about how we do things, where a toy company gets purchased by a military industrial complex, which makes the most sense because that way you can guarantee sales while you're working on your cool project.
No, that's probably a true story.
It's a completely true story. And then the other part where, okay, well, we have a brand new chip. So last season's chip is now not the chip we're going to be using for rockets, but we have 10 million of them. What can we do with them? Can we make them say mama? Like, this is, of course, what toy companies are going to do. So it's an incredibly powerful scene.
Isn't it weird that, like, or maybe it's not that weird, but that like young girls, the programming that they get, that they all talk about, the Disney and everything, is all around marriage. That when you get older and you get married, and it's like all this investment, and it's like the ideal for girls. It's like kind of like the same thing what the military is for boys. So like young boys, I don't know what your experience was, but like being bombarded with a lot of military stuff all over the place. And it goes well beyond like just G.I. Joe or whatever. But like that was the programming. It's more than conditioning. It's programming. And
a gentleman and an officer and a gentleman, right? Like, how old were you when you saw that? Like 6? I feel like that's
pretty young.
Yeah, like all the movies that we saw were very, but also weird because
Richard Gere. Are you talking
Richard
about
Gere? Yeah, it's weird watching Richard Gere's hair turn gray. That's the movie where it happens.
I remember watching Pretty Woman as a kid, or at least like right when it first came out.
Normal people watch Pretty Woman. I watched The Officer and a Gentleman. I don't know,
but that is a Disney movie about a prostitute. That's I mean, Touchstone was a Disney company. Yeah,
and Milk Money too. If we're just gonna list them all out.
Sure. And a lot of princesses do become prostitutes. Like, that's kind of the point of war, right? Like, it's like she's basically a war bride.
That's kind of what Beauty and the Beast was too. Like even in the OG version and in the Disney version, she's basically being pimped out in order to settle a debt.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Interesting.